Hello, we're excited to have you join us today for the Procurement Workforce of the Future session at FedTalks. I'm Dave Nyczepir, and I'm a tech reporter at FedScoop. Joining me today are Dr. Michael Wooten, U.S. Chief Procurement Officer, and Clare Martorana, Chief Information Officer of the Office of Personnel Management. Both the Office of Federal Procurement Policy and OPM are working to improve their processes and make acquisition as frictionless as possible. Improving data quality and launching artificial intelligence projects are big parts of that. At the same time, a workforce with the skills to parse that data and use those tools is also needed. We'll dive into all of that, but to start, I want to address frictionless acquisition, which is a cross-agency priority goal. How has that helped institutionalize the use of technologies like AI in procurement? Maybe, Michael, we could start with you there.
Well, certainly. So thank you for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be able to talk about frictionless acquisition. For me, it is a vision every as much as it is a cross-agency priority goal. So people have heard me say this over and over again, and I'm sure some are getting sick of it, and that's okay, because that means the message is getting out. Frictionless acquisition was born of the realization that customers want to reduce the time between I need a thing and I got a thing, reduce the time between I need and I got. So out of that simple, that very simple concept, we started understanding that frictionless acquisition was about something even bigger than that, about streamlining processes, about removing unnecessary steps, and it could even be beneficial to not just the buyers within the federal workforce, but all stakeholders in the federal acquisition system. So that now frictionless acquisition has moved toward what I would consider five greater objectives: rapid commercial buys, rapid decision making, reducing barriers to entry, increasing competition, and then lastly, improving customer service. So frictionless acquisition is, as I said, a grand vision that I'm glad to have the opportunity to discuss today.
And Claire, did you have any thoughts on that as well?
No, we're just really grateful for the work OFPP is putting into this, because I do believe that this is really going to help accelerate some of the transformation that is needed at agencies like OPM. We're in a little bit more nascent state as far as some of this work goes. So having that federal guidance and leadership is really instrumental and will be really meaningful for agencies like OPM as they go through our transformation and modernization efforts.
Now, I also wanted to ask about the new IT vendor management office within OMB. How does that set the stage for the next generation of category management, and how will it help by AI?
Well, thanks for that question as well, because really to understand frictionless acquisition and understand the overall need to create pathways to the workforce of tomorrow, you have to understand what structures have been in place, what movements have influenced federal acquisitions. And to start with, the big, I think the big deal, the big change was category management, as you said. But while that was an internal change and an internal decision, a very smart business decision, we also have the externalities of artificial intelligence and the very easy to acquire robotics process automation. So understanding that we have a system of category management that helps the buyers do their business and consider the cross-agency or across the federal enterprise data so that they make smart market decisions. Also, we have to understand that with these externalities, people are now going to need to understand how to purchase artificial intelligence. And the specific things I'm talking about are things like natural language processing, machine learning. How do we do that stuff? What might we need to change? Who has our expertise in doing that? So the IT VMO stands up to really help us take a step forward from that basic category management structure. It helps us now look at the need to have a system that delivers data analytics, that has a collection of subject matter experts who understand the data stuff, to be able to structure good vendor relationship management, to be able to identify and tweak and improve those best-in-class solutions. And then, of course, in these days and time, also have IT security. So those are the things that the IT VMO does for us. But also, we need to make sure that the workforce that manages the IT VMO and all of the supply chain, make sure that workforce understands how to make things more efficient by making the right decisions.
Now, switching focus to OPM for a second. I'm sorry, Claire, did you have a thought to add?
No, I was just going to build on that. I think while OFPP is building on that on the enterprise level for the federal government, at an agency like OPM, what we're trying to do is mimic that in the micro environment of an agency, right? So take all of those leadership direction from an enterprise level and apply it across our portfolio. So for example, we have a lot of data at OPM, right? And OPM is really takes a federal employee in many instances from hiring to retiring, and that longitudinal relationship and that journey. And being able to think about our programs and our agency infrastructure on an enterprise level really will empower us moving forward to be able to benefit from the leadership position some other agencies are actually experiencing. So there are numerous places where AI and machine learning and natural language processing are really effectively being implemented in government. And then there's other places where we are a little bit further behind. So being able to benefit and get the actual benefit is the only word I can think of from these federal opportunities really empowers a smaller agency like OPM. So I think the CAP goals are a phenomenal tool for us to use at smaller agencies.
And I think Claire's description just now was very, very helpful. I know I can tend to be an egghead and wax eloquent about pie in the sky philosophy sounding stuff, but this is really practical stuff. And what she just laid out was I think, very strong. And if I may, I'll paraphrase someone else who I think has been very good at that, Stan Solomon. I'm paraphrasing him and saying this: the more data, the more aggregation. The more aggregation, the more synthesis. And the more synthesis, the better the decisions are that agencies make. And that's what we're really after. That's why it's important that you have panelists like us from the IT and the acquisition side of the fence sitting down and having this conversation so that people can understand how we work together.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of OPM strategy to technologies like AI and ML, are there projects that you're scoping right now?
We're actually at a little bit more foundational level at the moment. OPM has an extraordinarily rich data set, but our data sets currently are in program silos. So we have not yet had the opportunity to harmonize those. So we're A, focused on our data strategy, and then B, being able to focus on where we can make strategic investments. We have a really talented procurement executive, Todd Anthony, on our team. And because we're moving into this enterprise mindset at OPM, we are actually strategically partnered together in order to assess where we are. So to Mike's point, the practical part of where we are today, but aspirationally looking at where that data maybe once it's clean and organized and we build out that data strategy, we will then have the opportunity to build some of these strategic projects that have been concepted, but without the foundational data strategy organized and without, us building the technology environment to actually put the data in, harmonize that data. We don't want to try and run before we can walk. And so we are focused primarily on standing up all of those capabilities in partnership with our procurement strategy.
Now, we touched on workforce a little bit already, but I wanted to ask both of you, how are your agencies improving both data quality and the talent needed to parse that data at the same time in order to pave the way for some of these emerging technologies?
I'll jump in. With respect to the workforce, we want to make sure that they understand first how the evolving IT infrastructure will impact the way they do their business now. For example, in the procurement field, and this can be said about financial management, HR, many, we are process-oriented professions. And oftentimes our people see their purpose as being process workers who move product from A to B, B to C. But in days of robotics process automation, there are now software applications that can do much of that work. The programmable, flow chartable, if I can use that term, work that doesn't require human decisions, and it can do it faster, and it can do it with greater accuracy. So we need for our workforce to understand that there is a shift, that they now need to be working more on the higher end of the spectrum, making decisions that RPA cannot make. Oh, and by the way, making those decisions using artificial intelligence, some of the higher order stuff, machine learning, natural language processing, to make decisions, to help them understand data, to harvest the data, so that they're making good decisions that are informed by what's going on all across the federal space. So that sea change in their environment is driving a change in the way the workforce will work, and it will drive a change in the way we must educate our workforce.
Yeah, and Dave, if I might, I concur with that. I think one of the biggest challenges is making sure that we are partnering together from an IT side and a procurement side, and really designing one strategy. Because technology is changing very rapidly, and it is really easy to stay in a project, stay in a bit of a silo, while other things in your agency might be moving forward quite aggressively. And so one of the things that we're really trying to focus on is making sure that we are providing our IT workforce with those opportunities to participate in the bigger strategy. And then also trying to bring along our agency program partners with us on the journey. So introducing new ideas and then bringing the team along to embrace those ideas, because if we don't get the workforce coming along on this journey with us, and sharing the best public sector, private sector, nonprofit intelligence about how modernization and transformation happens, it doesn't happen without people, right? People are the key to this. And I really see an opportunity for our federal workforce, both on the procurement side and the IT side, to really be in an integrated team to drive the momentum that will be needed to see all of these technology opportunities benefit our customers, our workforce customers, as well as our end customers.
Now, RPA, robotic process automation, was mentioned a little bit earlier. How are your agencies managing it to solve different problems within your agency?
Well, I can tell you that we're starting to see the use of robotics process automation, or I like to refer to them as process automation tools. But by either name, we're starting to see agencies use those. But now I'm finding myself in the position of needing to orchestrate the use. For example, process automation tools are often used to support contract closeout functions. But if 5 agencies create process automation tools that deal with contract closeout, and none create tools that deal with some of the other repeatable processes, then I haven't gained as much as if different agencies solve different problems and then share their tools across. So that's this is a good problem to have. The fact that people are taking that first step and using the process automation tools is something that I'm really happy about. But my job is to help them understand the opportunity. And by the way, I wanted to harp on that word because Claire mentioned that there is with the burgeoning growth of IT applications and the use of IT, there is opportunity for the workforce. I think that's so important to understand. There's a lot of opportunity, and I'm very high on that.
Yeah, and we're at a little bit more of a basic level with RPA. We've had some programs that have scoped out projects that they would like to pursue. We have to get our governance right. That is going to be a really key part of this. Is setting bots loose in your environment without a governance structure can really add to some challenges that you're trying to avoid. So we need to do those things in parallel, and not just governance without impact, right? Making sure that we're putting the right governance process in place that will actually, accelerate those opportunities.
Now we're running to the end of our time here, so I just wanted to throw out one final question for both of you, which is just in terms of higher order artificial intelligence, things like natural language processing and machine learning. How are you using it to solve more complex problems, or will you use it in the future?
So I'll jump on that one because I'm most excited about this particular question. How do we use the higher order artificial intelligence, things like natural language processing, for example? One of the knotty problems for procurement has been understanding how to develop good requirements. And we have some tools, some very old school, if I can use that term, old school tools to help us begin to develop requirements through facilitated requirements development workshops. We developed, when I was at Defense Acquisition University, something called a SAW, a service acquisition workshop. And then the tool was the acquisition requirements roadmap tool. But that was done in Microsoft Excel. With some of the tools that we have now, we can definitely add power to the whole art and SAW processes so that we get really good products, and then use those tools to draw data in from all across the federal agencies, and then push the data back out to share so that people are now improving their ability to put out good statements of work. To me, that is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, and I guess I would add that I couldn't be more excited about what the future applications of AI are, and machine learning and RPA, all of these tools. One thing I always get concerned about, and it's why we are focused on our data strategy to begin with, is making sure that we are doing this, building these tools out in the most scalable and sustainable way possible. So making sure we're not introducing bias, right? There's a lot of conversations around AI and bias. So we want to make sure that, again, starting with our clean data, right? You can have 25 different ways to define an address across program silos that have been in existence for many, many years. And AI won't help us solve that problem. We want to make sure we have the right data that is structured in order to then get the benefit of what AI and machine learning are going to provide to our agencies, mostly getting out of low value work, moving to Mike's point, to the higher value work that we want humans to do, not repeatable processes that we obviously can allow computers to do.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us today and for a great conversation. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the rest of FedTalks.
Thank you.
Thank you.